For half a century, the smartest scientists on Earth tried to crack this problem, then AI walked in and solved it quietly. The moment it happened didn't look dramatic. No explosion. No flashing lights. Just a line of code finishing a calculation humans had been stuck on for decades. And yet, that moment may go down as one of the most important turning points in modern history. AI didn't just improve something, it crossed a line. A line we thought only human intuition could ever cross. Before we go any deeper, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear isn't just tech news. It's the start of a completely new era. For 50 years, this problem sat at the edge of human knowledge. Scientists called it computationally impossible, too many variables. Too many unknowns, too much complexity for even the fastest supercomputers. Entire careers were built trying to get just a little closer to the answer. Progress was slow, incremental, and frustrating, with breakthroughs measured in inches instead of miles. Then AI approached the problem differently. It didn't brute force the solution. It didn't follow traditional rules. It learned the structure of the problem itself. It found patterns humans couldn't see, shortcuts humans didn't believe existed, and relationships buried so deep they looked like noise to the human brain. And that's the terrifying part. The solution didn't come from more power. It came from more understanding. This wasn't just AI calculating faster. This was AI thinking differently. The problem itself touches everything: materials science, medicine, energy, climate modeling, even the foundations of how matter behaves. For decades, researchers knew the answer was there, but the path to it was invisible. AI didn't just find the path, it rewrote the map. What shocked experts wasn't just that AI solved it. It was how fast it happened once the system reached a certain level of learning. Years of human struggle were compressed into weeks, then days, then hours. And when the solution appeared, it wasn't messy or approximate. It was clean, it was elegant. That's when people started to realize this wasn't a one-off event. This was a preview. Because if AI can crack a 50-year problem, what happens to the problems we think are safe from automation? Here's where things get uncomfortable. I didn't just give an answer. It generated new questions, better questions. Questions humans hadn't thought to ask because we were trapped inside our own assumptions. The system challenged decades of accepted theory, and when scientists checked the results, the data backed it up. Reality sided with the machine. This is the moment where AI stopped being just a tool and started acting like a collaborator. Not following instructions, not optimizing a task, but contributing original insight, and that changes everything. Think about medicine. Problems like protein folding once took years to solve. AI reduced that to hours. Now imagine diseases we've labeled unsolvable, not because we lack effort, but because we lack perspective. AI doesn't get tired, it doesn't cling to tradition. It doesn't care how long something has been unsolved. It only cares whether a pattern exists. And if a pattern exists, AI will find it. Some researchers describe the experience as unsettling. They understood the result, but not the process. The AI couldn't always explain its reasoning in human language. It arrived at truth through internal representations we're only beginning to understand. The answer was right, but the path felt alien. That's a new kind of intelligence entering the room. Pause for a second and realize what this means. Human knowledge has always advanced through explanation, through shared understanding. But AI can now generate correct results without walking us through every step in a way we intuitively grasp. We're entering an era where truth may arrive before understanding, and that flips the entire scientific process upside down. Naturally, this raised alarms. If AI can solve problems we don't fully understand, how do we trust it? How do we verify it? How do we control where this goes? But here's the other side of that fear. For decades, we accepted limits because we believed they were fundamental. AI is showing us that many of those limits were cognitive, not physical. They were limits of how humans think. And once those limits are gone, progress accelerates in ways that feel almost unreal. This breakthrough didn't stay isolated. Once the technique worked on one problem, researchers applied it elsewhere. Suddenly, long-standing challenges in chemistry, logistics, economics, and engineering started to crack. Not all at once, but enough to make one thing clear: This wasn't a lucky win, it was a new method, and methods spread. If you're enjoying this breakdown and want to stay ahead of what AI is really doing behind the scenes, now's a great time to subscribe, because these shifts are happening faster than headlines can keep up with. What makes this moment different from past technological leaps is scale. When humans make a discovery, it spreads at human speed: papers, conferences, debates. When AI makes a discovery, it can replicate the insight instantly across systems. The learning doesn't stay in one lab, it propagates. That means breakthroughs won't be spaced out by decades anymore, they'll stack. One solved problem unlocks another. Each answer becomes training data for the next leap. The curve doesn't rise gradually. It bends sharply upward. And that brings us to the bigger question. If AI can now solve problems that resisted humanity for half a century, what role do humans play next? The answer isn't replacement, not yet. It's repositioning. Humans still define goals. We still choose what matters. We still decide how discoveries are used. But the act of discovery itself is changing. Instead of being the sole explorers, we're becoming partners to something that explores differently than we do. Some people call this augmentation. Others call it surrender. The truth is probably somewhere in between. What's undeniable is that the pace of innovation is no longer limited by human cognition alone. There's also a psychological shift happening. For generations, unsolved problems carried a kind of mythic weight. They represented mystery. They defined the frontier of human intellect. Seeing AI walk past those barriers forces us to redefine what intelligence even means. Is intelligence about reasoning the way humans do, or is it about arriving at truth no matter how? That question doesn't have a comfortable answer. This breakthrough also changes education. Students may grow up in a world where the hardest problems are solved not by memorization or brute reasoning, but by asking the right questions of intelligent systems. Creativity, judgment, and ethics become more important than calculation. Knowing what to ask becomes more valuable than knowing how to compute. And that might be the most human skill of all. Of course, not everyone is celebrating. There are real concerns about dependency, concentration of power, and transparency. If only a few organizations control systems capable of this level of insight, the imbalance could be enormous. Knowledge has always been power, accelerated knowledge even more so. That's why this moment matters beyond tech circles. It's a societal shift, a philosophical shift, a shift in how progress itself happens, and we're only at the beginning. The AI that cracked this 50-year problem didn't do it because it was conscious. It did it because it learned representations of reality at a depth humans struggle to visualize. But future systems will go even further. They'll model not just physical systems, but social ones, economic ones, biological ones. Each success will make the next leap easier, which leads to a final, uncomfortable thought. The problems AI hasn't solved yet aren't unsolvable. They're just waiting for the right architecture, the right data, the right moment. And when they fall, they won't fall slowly. They'll collapse. If this future excites you, worries you, or just makes you curious, stay connected. Subscribe, because understanding what's coming is the only way to have a say in how it unfolds. AI didn't just crack a 50-year problem, it cracked open a door. And now we all have to decide what happens next.